Why do you gotta like go in and like I'm butthurt. I'm gonna show how butthurt I am.
Who's butthurt? The one who came on here and regrets his personal decision to let me.
Let him go stew.
Huh?
Let him go stew and let him like get pulled around by the dick by people who talk in his ear.
I'm not gonna let him go stew. Stew. I'm gonna let him go stew. That's where I'm gonna let him. I'm gonna let him go spread. I'm gonna go let him spread. If he is going to, throw shade on me and my friends,
So stop giving him free publicity.
Speaking of free publicity, this guy I haven't talked to in a long fucking time. A legend in his own mind and sometimes mine.
Yeah.
It's like I was the geeky sophomore, and you came to talk to me because I had a tool shirt on one time, and then all of a sudden, years later, you're doing. Can I say what the thing you were doing?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's still for sale, and it's going to come back.
Stand-up comedy, all kinds of punk and rock and metal bands and industrial bands.
Scored movies.
Auditioning yourself off at bondage shows, which I was always pretty envious of that, man, because I never would have done that shit.
I got paid for that, too. Oddly. It's amazing what you can do with barely any abs and a fishnet shirt and being able to talk your way into anything. Yeah.
Wow. And you told a cool story about how you actually met Artie Lang.
Yeah, I'm not repeating that story now because I've already told it once today.
Yeah.
But hi, Jeremy. Hi.
Right.
Hi, Feel Bad Ben. I can barely hear anything on here. I normally do this with like headsets and everything, but this format doesn't support it.
How about now?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah.
I had the mic pointed towards the speakers. I'm a total amateur. I'm not a studio wizard like you. Go ahead, Ben. What?
I was just gonna say you can't hear me because I'm not talking.
You see, but his voice clears through, so we've got that going for us. Hi guys, how are you guys doing today?
Well, I actually went out on Saturday Night Live Saturday night for once, so I'm doing better than I was, man. I was about ready to just go full on Lane Staley, narcotic lockdown, but thankfully I had some friends that managed to pull me away. So. Sorry, am I bringing back bad memories or?
No, your cat's completely covered your face.
Okay.
Yeah, Gracie is the real star of the show.
Yeah, so this is the mascot. This is the person I need to impress. Clearly.
Yeah.
Cat.
He's trying to
and
show.
She's not easy to impress.
Yeah.
I'm drinking through this because it's my night off. I hope that doesn't bother anybody.
Fuck no. Do any of us stay sober on Sunday nights, Ben?
No.
Yeah.
I'm only not drinking because my sleep schedule is messed up, so I'm trying not to drink to try to get it back to somewhat normal.
See, that's how I correct mine. Is I pick like 5 hours out and drink for like 2 hours during it, and then take melatonin and then get to sleep, and that's how I get up at 6 a.m. I'm like, I don't have to get drunk. I just need something to offset the melatonin and make me go, oh, fuck, you're old. And then I pass out.
I'll probably just, I don't know, smoke 100% legal tobacco before I go to bed.
They tax the shit out of that, don't they?
So
I wouldn't know.
So what are you guys on right now? Or Jeremy, do you want to talk about what we were talking about earlier?
No, kratom, hydrocodone, California poppy extract, sun opener, and like the last shot of very old Barton that I could find in the house. So.
Very old Barton's underrated. It's very underrated.
It tastes like shit and it's strong as hell, but it gets the job done. I mean,
I just drink McCormick. Shut up.
I actually
because I've been sponsored by Tito's before, and I still drink McCormick.
What is that Russian vodka? Takio or Taco? Taako? That shit. I tried that the other day, and that's really good. I mean,
well, McCormick's did a taste test with some liquor reps from Dan Aykroyd's Crystal Skull Company, right? So you had to do these blind taste tests of these 2 shots. Crystal Skull is $65, $70 a bottle, mostly because it comes in a big fucking crystal skull and it has Dan Aykroyd's name on it. So, yeah, that's the thing. And then McCormick's is $15 a half gallon. And people, we had to do a blind taste test. And everybody there on the tour that I was on and the bar managers, everybody, all agreed that this one shot has to be the $90 bottle, $65 bottle, whatever it was. It was all McCormick's. So since then, I just switched to $15 a half gallon McCormick's vodka because apparently you can just tell people it's top shelf vodka. And with vodka, it all tastes like battery acid. So it's all like, subversive.
Yeah. So the thing we were going to talk about was your hot take on Scarlett Johansson suing Disney and Marvel, and I felt like it was a much more dispassionate thing, whereas I was saying, no, fuck no, she should, because they basically killed any chances she had of financial success on the thing,
Well, okay, so it's past that. I've done a lot of research on this for my show, the podcast you can find on, wherever you listen to audio podcasts, Geeks Inherited the Earth. We don't touch this type of stuff in episodes because we want it to be more fun, and it's something that we only mention like in passing. But we did do the research on it just to know because, okay, all of us watched Black Widow via Disney Plus, paying $30 a ticket price. Okay, this is very important to why Scarlett Johansson just got fucked over. So her contract was pre-COVID-19 for this movie. It was signed in 2018, and she was supposed to get production credit points for financial compensation, and she was supposed to get her guaranteed base pay and then points from box office sale. So they did not update her contract like they have other male stars. I do believe there's a degree of sexism in this, but that might just be my own opinion. I mean, we have no evidence of it, but it does fucking seem like it. Movie drops. It does less than stellar at the box office in comparison to Marvel movies from what they expected it to do, but it broke records on the purchase streaming model. Now, why this is important is all of her pay as a producer and a starlet was contingent on box office sales, and they gave her fucking nothing from the Disney Plus sales. So everything that she did from Disney Plus sales, she got nothing from. And Disney's excuse was that we cannot monetize a streaming service. Well, the problem with that is you had to pay $30 a fucking ticket to see this on Disney Plus, which they are saying, since if you buy something to Disney Premiere, you own it, they're counting that as Blu-ray sales. They're counting it in a different category. They're counting it completely different. But fuck no. I mean, and nobody even knew that you were going to keep that purchase until we found out, like going to look at it a couple days later, like, holy fuck, this hasn't expired. It was not announced. Nothing was ever said. So they screwed her between $50 and $75 million, and she sued him. And I hope she fucking wins. I hope she fucking wins, because the converse of this model would be the HBO Max Warner Brothers model. Now, the deal with the HBO Warner Brothers deal is that they know some of these movies, they're going to HBO Max streaming first. Warner Brothers does their deals differently a little bit, where they're more paid upfront with guarantees that are a little bit higher than some of the things that Marvel does by percentage, but not by price. So the Marvel people are getting a bigger walk-in. They're not getting as big as a walk-in as a Warner Brothers person does. But the differences are things like the HBO Max thing, where they look at new signups within box office opening weekend, and they count that back towards actors, artists, directors, all these fucking people that can work on a movie back towards their points and their pay. And Disney didn't fucking do it. So Suicide Squad just dropped this weekend, and it's done decent at the box office from where a lot of people aren't comfortable going back to theaters. It's blown up HBO Max to death. Then it goes back to what I call the Mortal Kombat model. So Mortal Kombat came out in HBO Max before it hit theaters in most of the country. Stayed in theaters, still in theaters in a lot of places. And the actors are still getting their points and their pay, but their major fucking money came from HBO Max. So there's a discrepancy in the model where they're just fucking people, and they're using streaming services as an example to be able to fuck people. And it's fucking bullshit. Scarlett Johansson deserves that lawsuit in every point. Nobody from, the Suicide Squad camp or Mortal Kombat or that Jared Leto movie that sucked fucking balls they put out.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly.
You
The HBO Max one. But fucking nobody's came and asked for money. Disney is fucking their own employees. There you go. Like Mortal Kombat has exceeded expectations on HBO Max, and these people got paid. Mortal Kombat, by the way, got signed for 2 more movies from its HBO Max performance, whereas Scarlett Johansson's having to sue people. So the streaming wars we're knee deep in right now between television shows, syndicated shows, going to things like HBO, HBO Max now, Hulu, all this shit. The wars are on, and I'm just curious to see what everybody is going to do in the future now, because we've now seen with Scarlett Johansson, who loved the Marvel franchise, integral part of the Marvel franchise. That movie should have came out years ago. I mean, it's set. The Black Widow movie is set after Civil War, before Infinity War. It was set up to where they could do a trilogy of movies just to catch up what she was doing later. Marvel fucked it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, she was one of their original stars, right? Avengers, and big tentpole superstar, and now they're just blatantly violating her contract, and they're not even trying to hide it. They're not even trying that hard to hide it. They're just like, you need to trust us with this, honey. This is too much for your. And I'm not. I'm probably 95% misogynist, on any given day, but I can see, on a human level that this is bullshit. There's still an us versus them thing with corporate. I'm not going to be a corporate apologist. There's these busybodies that hang out on the internet, to be corporate apologists for WWE, Disney, Marvel. No matter what they do, these guys just raped a gaggle of underage kids. Oh, well, they're supposed to watch the whole company, 24/7. It's amazing the mental gymnastics they have to jump through.
I think that it shows the incel culture goes all the way up to under the corporate level.
Wow.
Because this is just corporate incels. This is the leftovers of the Harvey Weinstein generation. And they're like, well, why do we have to pay her? Like, they would never have done that to Robert Downey Jr. Okay, if this was Iron Man 4. All right. And this shit happened that way, this wouldn't have happened. This wouldn't have happened at all. They would have been like, oh God, it's Robert Downey Jr. And they could have gargled corporate cum in the back of their fucking mouths for Robert Downey Jr. to see him come back. Scarlett Johansson, they're like, yeah, well, fuck it. Who cares? She's only been in more Marvel movies than anybody but Robert Downey Jr. But you know what? Who cares? Fuck it. Meanwhile, the Mortal Kombat staff are getting well paid, well stayed, and coming back for sequels.
Now, so Ben was going to say something. What?
I was just going to say the best take that I've heard on it is because Scarlett Johansson has had to be the subject of Joss Whedon's delusions for years. She deserves to be made the majority shareholder of Disney.
No, I would agree with that. And have you read the things that she complained about during the movies of it? Like at one point he was asking her to move her ass in different directions because her ass had to fill movies.
Yeah, that's absolutely no fucking surprise to me.
It is to me.
Maybe we should thank you for that. I don't know. Maybe I should. I'd like to thank you for that. But
it was to me because for years, because I've worked in entertainment most of my life, and a lot of my friends are in film, and a lot of my friends are in comedy, and that bleeds over to film. So like the Weinstein thing, yeah, we saw that coming. Louis C.K., yeah, we all knew about that. It was a joke actually in comedy clubs years before that should happen to Louis. Of hey, don't jerk off in front of her. I mean, like we knew, but with Whedon, it was a shock because this guy did Buffy. He did these, he did Firefly. He did roles where he's trying to empower women and put them into positions of power, and we thought that was cool until we realized that he's subjugating him and screaming at him to do it like some kind of a fucking football coach. And it's like, God damn it, we believed in you. And that was a shock for sure.
Weinstein was responsible for greenlighting quite a lot of really cool, subversive, underrated, artistic films.
Yeah, and a lot of those girls had to blow him for the door that he had a lock on with the button.
Yeah. I mean, the footage where he saw honey, please just stay with me for 5 minutes, I promise, and then you can walk out. You don't have to do anything, just stay for 5 minutes. Like, so he's got a safe face because he's on camera. Get it?
That recording of him just being like, please just watch me shower. Please just watch me masturbate in the shower. Please just watch, please. Yeah. God, that shit was so pathetic.
I've got friends in porn, and the nickname for casting couch porn in the industry is Weinstein porn. That's a thing. That's a real thing. Like, I have friends that have been like, yeah, I've been Weinstein porn. I'm like, oh, so you got a career? She's like, no, I did a casting couch porn. So
I don't know if it's true, but I read somewhere that at some point, like, his dick got infected and basically rotted off.
Well, if that would have happened, the Me Too stories would have been a whole lot funner, and the memes would have been a lot better. Because I just imagine it'd just be like Soylent Green memes, just about his dick. You want the roll? Eat it before it falls off, woman. It'd be something more akin to that for sure.
I think that some of the testimonies in court had them talking about like they thought like he had female genitalia because of how fucked up he was down there.
Well, I mean, the type of people early in his career that would probably go fuck him for a career, you know. I mean, STDs weren't really a worry, and Weinstein doesn't seem the person that feels like a. If I found out that Weinstein was a giant Trojan fan, I'm going to be very shocked. I'm pretty sure he just barebacked everybody in his locker room.
I don't know. I know women who have been through terrible abuse who are anti-Me Too. And I think that the Me Too thing has caught on in such a way that women who were never victims or who were not as, incendiary of victims are now latching on and using it as a weapon, against all men. And I don't see how anybody can dispute that. I mean,
okay, here's my thing with that. The Me Too movement, I completely support. I'm a father of daughters, raised by a mother. All of my best friends are women. I support the Me Too movement. And, I have been, let's just say, had some very fortunate conversations with cops for being on the ass whipping end of some of those guys that needed it over the years. Especially working in comedy where they treat women like shit. Every now and then, the cameras are off. Let's take this open micer out back. Okay, cool. I mean, it's happened. It's happened. But you can't subjugate that movement's purpose from a few fringe people looking for attention, because that happens with every movement. And I think people that are actually involved with a movement, when they believe in it, they run the liars and the outliers out pretty fast, because their evidence has to be there. The example I put for this is Amber Heard, because she beat the shit out of Johnny Depp and then she lost this case. So like, she's fucked in Hollywood. There are some Amber Heards out there in the world, but I think I want to believe they're the minority. I want to believe they're the minority, and that a lot of these people are getting ran out. But I mean, I've seen it happen in the comedy community where people I know that wouldn't do that in 1,000 years. They just didn't book somebody, and they're like, he tried to fuck me. And we're like, all right, when, where? Well, I don't remember. I don't have any information. We all just kind of like, well, my response is always, I'm walking away. I don't have evidence either way. I'm walking away. Let a court deal with this. Like, no, I just want to go play a show. I mean, I'm talking to either party, But I mean, yeah, it exists, but that exists in anything. That's going to be a constant in anything. Lonely people that are looking for validation are always going to be a constant. But with the Me Too movement, I'd like to believe that majority of them are victims trying to run people out. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be, nothing's 100% true. Like nothing's 100% true. No movement's 100% pure.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of them were obvious opportunists just because, like, they were like very gung ho about it. But then Tara Reid came out with her story about Joe Biden, and a bunch of feminists with their Me Too in their bio were like, "Well, we did," and then they took Me Too out of their bio.
I find it hard to believe that anybody in politics has not fucked someone figuratively or literally, against their will at some point. I mean, yeah.
And
I was
pretty
shocked
much
for Obama for one reason, and this has nothing to do with politics. I've never seen a politician that talks about his wife and his kids as much as that guy does, especially after being like out of office. Like, I respect like this type of relationship I've always wanted to be in. I respect knowing when I go home that my balls are owned, and if I fuck this up, this is over. And he always has struck me as a guy that's in that kind of marriage. Like, man, if you ain't true to yourself the whole time, I am fucking leaving. I give that marriage props because it wasn't like Trump and Melania where it's like I can't type in Michelle Obama's pussy and find it on the internet where I can with Trump's wife. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm not buying it as much.
Well, there are some conflicting schools of thought on the reason for that, but
well, I think the obvious reason is that Trump only doesn't love anything. Like he barely even loves himself.
No, I'm not saying I buy it, but I'm just saying a few weeks before Joan Rivers died, she tried to quote unquote out Michelle Obama as Michael Obama, a man.
That's not true.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying Joan Rivers did, and then she died.
Joan Rivers is a comedian, and she was old as
Joan
fuck.
Rivers, actually, I'm a huge Joan Rivers fan, and Joan Rivers did this at random her whole career to people, just to pull strings. I mean, at one point she tried to tell people Johnny Carson was a cross-dresser. It's
like, gee, I wonder why Joan Rivers died. Could it have been she was old as fuck?
And had been fighting cancer and the side effects of all of her plastic surgeries for 25 years.
I'm sure Obama killed her.
I'm not saying
by himself with his own two hands.
I'm not saying I bought the thing. I'm just saying that's what people point to and whisper about. She died after saying this.
I would say that they do that because they're retards.
Yeah. Okay, here's the thing that happens with
everybody
stuff like that. They're going to latch to a sentence. They're going to latch to something to go, look, I found this cool hot take. Is everybody in the internet finally going to think I'm cool and touch my penis? Like, that's what that shit is, man. Those are the same dudes that sit there and watch gangbang porn because they want to be included.
I think that it's empowering for people to be armchair detectives for whichever side, in a way. I don't know.
I've never been able to pick a side because when I was growing up, I was told that I'm extremely liberal, and I'm like, well, I don't understand how because I hate everybody, and I've never changed my beliefs. And now, like, the crazy liberals tell me I'm right wing, the right wings hate me, the moderates won't deal with me, and I'm like, okay, well, if I'm doing that, I think I'm in a good spot where I can just make fun of everybody equally.
Yeah.
Like my last comedy record, I burned. I did my last comedy record after Trump was elected during his first year of presidency, and it wasn't before. It was actually him running. I'm sorry, I fucked that up. I did the tour his first year of presidency, but I did it while everybody was running, and I burned Trump to death. And they're like, we were still waiting on a new Tool album, which we hadn't seen. And the joke that I said was, Hillary Clinton fans are like fans of the band Tool. I believed in you in the 90s, and I've waited that long for you to do something I give a fuck about. By the time that you do, it'll be disappointing. And then I saw her presidential run, and I was like, I called it.
Yeah.
I voted for her, too, by the way, just because.
It's like... Yeah, her concession speech should have been, I may not be Steve-O, but I did a backflip into elephant shit on TV.
Yeah, that new Tool album, Buy My Wine, that was really cutting edge, But no.
Doesn't the guy is
doesn't he got that joke? I fucking got that joke.
Doesn't the guy who's Maynard, the lead singer Tool, doesn't he run like a winery?
He runs a winery in Arizona, yeah. And there's a documentary up about it that they took off Netflix over the hate commentary because it was literally a 2-hour documentary of Maynard being a shithead to his fans at signings and winery events. and just showing how shitty his winery looks. Like this winery looks so and I've drank some of the Caudacious wine before, and it's awful. And like it shows how shitty it is, and like it was just him blowing himself. And this had to be like the biggest Tool fan that made this documentary. And then you watch it, and you're like, "Oh God, this is painful."
It's like, well, now I know why they called themselves Tool.
Now, see, that joke didn't catch up. That joke did not catch up to them for decades. Everybody was buying into no, Tool is a band that is like your tool to lead you towards enlightenment. Everybody went all in on that without making the obvious Tool joke for decades. How did they manage that other than securing a pact with Satan himself?
Doubling it down, I had a Tool shirt in high school that was a fucking wrench with balls on it. When the wrench it said Tool, everybody thought that's clever. And like nobody, it was the 90s though. Clever in the 90s. I mean, Beavis and Butthead dominated airwaves. I mean, it didn't take much.
I think like for the longest time they just had like a sort of. I think for the longest time they just had a cult following since they're a prog rock band and nobody except weirdos listens to prog rock.
I'm not.
Okay, I'm going to fight you on that because the first 3 Tool albums, the first one basically was Quicksand's Manic Compression LP rewritten after listening to Rollins Band. Undertow is the best Melvins record I've ever bought because that's all they were listening to was the Melvins. It's a solid record. I love it a lot. Anima came out and it was weird. Like you really wanted to love it. When it first came out though, we listened to all the heavy songs on it and the other songs we were like, all right. And at that age, we all discovered marijuana and LSD and they're like, okay, we love it. And then Lateralis came out. We're like, what the fuck is this? And like that was Tool's discography ever since. It's like, what the fuck is this? Seriously? All right.
But a few weeks later, they always warmed up to the material. And it happened once again with Fear Inoculum. For some reason, it takes a few tries for their albums to snag on you. And I think they straight up recycled some stuff from older albums with Fear Inoculum, but still it makes that Tool feeling, but it's not an absolute masterpiece like they're used to. I think they threw it together in a few months.
They threw it together over 11 years, and that's what came out with.
They say that, but I don't buy that, man. There's no way they put that together, which is 10,000 Days Part 2 in 6 years. I don't believe it.
Is 11 years, and then here's the thing with it. Outside of that one song, Culling Voices, which is a perfect circle thing that got snuck into there in my brain, that song's fucking trash. Every actual song on Fear Inoculum I thought was really good, and I never thought that I'd say this ever, especially listening to Pussifer stuff, was this needs more Maynard. And like I think Maynard just phoned in the bare minimum requirements on a record and dumped it. But I mean, it still works. Like that album works. 10,000 Days rolls like an egg. Lateralis is just a giant collection of King Crimson ripoffs. There's some good songs on it, but a lot of it's really embarrassing. Like Fear Inoculum was solid, like for the most part. Like I could get behind that record. Like it wasn't as bad as other things they've done. But they said that they were starting a new album during quarantine, and I'm like, cool. So the next COVID, when that lockdown happens, when I'm 60, we're gonna get another Tool record.
Yeah, I think they were really, compared to when I saw them again in South Carolina, after touring on Lateralis, they after comparing that to what I saw in '96, my first concert ever, it was really night and day. They were really seemed tired and uninspired. If I look back at that first show I ever saw them at,
where was the first show you saw them at?
The Melvins opened, and Maynard came out in the black Speedo and the bra or something. You were there, weren't you?
If it was the Knoxville show, he did not. The Knoxville show, I actually was there before. Actually, I'll tell this story.
It was 98. It was 98.
Okay, that was. I don't think you saw him when I saw him. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you did. But the Melvins opened, and Megadeth had originally had that date and canceled. And I got there hours early, and because it was the first time me and my buddies had ever like left town to see a show. And it's weird because I actually met future band members of my band when I moved to Knoxville from this show who are in this story. I love telling this story. So we get there early, and there's these methed out rednecks that are in the front line with just marked as GA tickets, and they fucking took them, right? Because they walked over to the box office. They bought, the show was not sold out, and they bought GA tickets thinking they were seeing Megadeth. And these people were scaring the fuck out of us because we're like 16 years old and high as fuck. And these dudes are fucking party machines where they're an hour before doors. And now the line's forming behind us, and it's huge. And we go in, and we get to go right up to the front immediately. And there's this very tall man wearing Frankenfurter makeup, in a wife beater with clothespins and bondage pants. I stand 6 feet tall, and I had to look up to this guy. He would be my drummer in my first band in Knoxville later. And the Melvins had 2 roadies that were very big, like bull-dyke lesbians, hooking everything up. And these Megadeth fans are just screaming homophobic slurs at them and insults. And Maynard came out, I'll never forget this. Actually, a buddy of mine who was at the show, I just talked about this yesterday, and he was like, oh my God, I remember that. And it was actually my current drummer who was there too. And he's like, Maynard came out, and he's like, how many kind-hearted, open-minded, compassionate people do we have in the audience? And the place goes nuts. And he goes, how many closed-minded, homophobic, redneck motherfuckers do we have in the audience? And everybody that's in the GA area is just staring at these fucking people that think they're seeing Megadeth. He goes, on your way out the door, please applaud the Melvins. And then security, I saw them escort them out. No refunds, bitch. And then the Melvins proceeded to do what I would call one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in my life. I've seen them 22 times since then. And when Tool hit stage, actually Maynard came out in a Southern Baptist preacher outfit. And the first song that they did was Anima. And it was insane. And there's clips of it you can find on YouTube, but they're very grainy. But the second song they did, still in the Southern Baptist preacher outfit, was we need to procreate. This song will make you fill a hole and plant a pole. The song's called Sweat. And that was the first time I ever got hit so hard that my legs went over my head in a pit. And this large Frankenfurter man grabs me by the ankle. And he's like, learn how to fight, you piece of shit.
You always got the best stories, man. I don't know. You just
6 or 7 years later, I'm in a practice room with a man dressed in Frankenfurter makeup as we're shit-faced drunk in this locked-off recording studio with nothing but Alice in Wonderland DVDs playing on a loop, and we're writing a record. And he's like, man, this reminds me of this one Tool show I was at too, and this guy was wearing Jinko pants, fucking bootleg Tool shirt. You got his shit kicked out of him during sweat. It's like, and you grabbed me by the ankle.
Oh, that must be. See, I've never had that where it's like people confirm something that happened and they didn't know it was me they were talking about. That's like, you've got to be in another headspace to be able to achieve that, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you're really in to the culture of anything, you know, the trailer park gets small. Is the way I've always put it. Like, I've lived in Knoxville for 15 years, and the trailer park gets really small. But I was a road comic for a long time, and every city is like this. Like, I'm from Bristol, Virginia, which means I grew up in Bristol, Tennessee, and went to that school system. And we had tons of punk rock shows there growing up, and a lot of those musicians made it. And I'd be on the road, you know, I'd be in Birmingham, Alabama, and just walk in and see people who I opened for when I was 18. You know, and they're like, oh, do you remember that one time we fought those Nazis and you went through the plate glass walls? Like, yeah, fuck, I remember that. Let me show you the scar on my back. It's still there. Like, it happens. But, I mean, music culture has this beautiful thing where if you're into it in the right places, then the paths are always going to overlap. And comedy has that. Filmmakers have that. And if you want proof of it, look at how many filmmakers talk about, hey, I met you 20 years ago, and now, hey, I'm going to do this role with you now. Writers don't get that because writers live in a hole.
Yeah.
And like, I don't get it enough because everything that I have to tour on in my life, everything I've done, I have to write. So there's this giant gaps where like I don't leave the house. And then when I have to go back out, it's like, oh, so this happened and things change. But the difference is the things that I write, I get to tour on. You know, I get to like be interactive with. Where like if you write a book, like the best thing that you do is what, a live reading? Well, that fucking sucks. You know, like who wants to fucking do that? And I've been to a few too. I mean, I almost got into a fight with Andrew WK when he did his. So
Andrew WK did a live reading. I
yeah,
didn't read a book.
yeah. No, he wrote a bunch of self-empowerment essays and some shit, and it was just so he could push a speaking tour and push this comp album of unsigned bands and shit. We had to go to an art museum to watch it. He tried to fuck my girlfriend. And the whole thing was the methodology of partying, where you don't have to need drugs and you don't need to do anything. And he clearly at one point turned away and did coke and came back and spoke more about how you don't need. This is at 11 o'clock in the morning. Like, we weren't there to see his show. We're in a fucking art museum. And they tried to fuck my girlfriend and then told me it would cost me $75 for a selfie unless I have blow. I'm like, oh God, this is the end of the internet, but now I know never to go to a live reading. Like, ever. Just no. Like, I don't know who those people are that want to see that. Like, that's awful.
Hashtag party hard, right?
Yeah, let's start a party. And like, your first cover album was him with the bloody nose. Why are you surprised he did coke?
Yeah. I'm hearing myself echo.
This is normally a writer's podcast, right?
Yeah. You really bumped it up into like the fifth dimension. Like, you know, I'm not saying that past guests have been boring, but it's like it's just on a different level. I mean, you've lived so much wealth of life that it's like it's insane enough to me, and to other people who live more life than me, it probably is a little bit impressive too. So, I'm not trying to.
That. I mean, I'm getting evicted from my house with nowhere to go. Trust me, it's not a good plan unless you get paid. I say that now and catch me in 2 years, and yeah, you know that's how it goes. The creative arts writing is different for a lot of people. I'm not in this camp, by the way, but let's pick something innocuous, okay? Like the Dave Matthews Band, right? That could not be any more white person innocuous if I could find like the best excuse I can find. Tons of people go see it live, but there's no theory, there's no madness, there's nothing. So you write and you go up and you do a thing, and those lyrics might be impassionate to this guy. I'm using him as a specific example because, you know, that whole band formed because, you know, that car wreck that, you know, killed his wife and daughter when he was young is what made him go on the road the whole time. He's got a backstory, never wrote a fucking record about it, right? Never wrote a book, never done shit. Then you have David Bowie, who writes albums with a concept, theory, thought involvement. So this is starting down outside of just a piano, a guitar, a bass, drums, you know, some synths, and it's creating an environment and a world, what they call concept albums. What they really are just a fucking narrative. He's creating a fucking narrative, right? Now, if you take that a step further and go to comedy, there's comedians. Everybody's a fan of a bunch of them that write a bunch of unrelated jokes, right? Unrelated concepts, but they're good jokes. They're solid jokes. I'm not shitting on the quality here, just like I'm not shitting on If you like Dave Matthews Band, the quality of that, but it's not a cohesive narrative. And then you have comics like myself, or, you know, I'm not putting myself in these echelons, just the people I looked up to, like Doug Stanhope, who, you know, was friends with for a long time, and George Carlin, who I pray at the altar to, and people like that create an hour narrative. And these people are writing basically a book and performing it live, you know? So there's different narrative constructs, and I'm in that boat where everything that I write, I unfortunately have to go show people, you know? And that part sucks, especially if you're in comedy, because, you know, if I miss a beat, I can't blame the bass player. Like, we might have just fucked up, and by we, I mean me, in a singular unit, fuck up the next 45 minutes of your life. But now here's where it gets sketchy. With writers, when you publish a book, it's in a novelization class. It's in a section in the bookstore. You go to Books A Million. You know, I wrote a mystery novel. It's in mystery, all right? If you like metal, sure, there's 75 subgenres of metal, but if you're a metal fan, you know how to parse it. You know, but I mean, if you go to a metal concert, man, it's on the flyer. You can tell, especially if it's death metal, because you can't read the letters, and it just looks like baby vomit that somebody just tracked some shit into. Comedy, it just says names, probably a picture of a microphone. There's no genre specification, and there's more genres in the writing of comedy than there is in most things. So let's say you love to do some music. You love Hank Williams, right? And you see live music and some names, and you go, and it's Cradle of Filth. You're going to be pissed. With comedy, you just see a bunch of names. So let's say you love Larry the Cable Guy. And you get me. No refunds, bitch.
I remember Doug Stanhope would have that whole bit where he talked about how it used to be, he would say things like, who came out here to see me? And now who came out just to see whatever bag of shit was in front of the microphone?
Okay, I'll tell you where that joke came from, if you want to know.
Go ahead.
That joke came from when he did his comedy. I drank with him, and he told me this. That came from when he did his first Comedy Central piece, which he had to do as a part to be in the Man Show with Joe Rogan. He had to do a 30-minute. And if you've never listened to the Doug Stanhope Across the Street record, he talks ad nauseum about how much him and Joe Rogan and Doug Stanhope's mom did to destroy that show.
Yeah.
It was recorded in Wilmington, North Carolina, at Dead Crow Comedy Club, which I played. And the guy who introduced him was a man named Matt Ward, who founded the comedy scene in Knoxville and was the first guy to ever take me on the road. This bonus track stuff at this point that it impresses nobody but me. But okay, so they told him he has to do this Comedy Central half-hour special, and he goes, okay, I'm going to do it. He thought he was like the headliner, right? He was number 4 in 8 they were filming that night. So he walked out there, and he's like, hey, is everybody here having a good time? And everybody goes, yay! And he goes, what's my name?
And they said,
Nobody fucking knew.
That's like how Andy Andrus started his album. It's like he comes
I
out
fucking
to
know
clapping.
Andy, man. I've opened for Andy a shitload. I used to bring him weed on the road. Holy fuck, we toured together. You don't fucking know Andy. Oh fuck.
I've only heard his one album, but he's pretty funny.
His new one's coming out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, so you know that support the troops joke on that record.
Oh, yeah, that one's pretty great.
Okay, so that was the first joke that ever got banned from paid TV services, like when it was HBO and Cinemax and all that shit. Jim Norton had a show on HBO, and Andy came out there on a fucking boatload of blow and did that whole bit. And he got one of my favorite shows I've ever done in my life was actually opening for Andy Andrus in a church. in Birmingham, Alabama, I think it was.
Uh-oh.
I think it was Birmingham, maybe Auburn. And he was on a road with my friends from Fort Lauderdale called the Degenerate Comedy Tour. And the main guy that was running it, Damian Figler, his merch shirts were just pictures of a giant pentagram holding a blunt. When I got there, it's the first time I met Andy. I was on the road on another tour. I had days off, and they said, come over here and mix your tour with ours and come work with us. I'm like, I'm not going to get paid for it, but I got paying shows. I want to work with Andy. Fuck yeah, let's do it. So they let Andy hear my first record in the car. He wants to meet me, and as soon as he comes and hugs me, he goes, all right, we need to get high. Do you have weed? It's like, no. You're Andy Andrist. I assume that this happens when you shit. While I'm on the road there, Damian Figler, their tour manager and one of the comics, found old Bibles from where they'd renovated this church into a venue. Took his shit, wiped his ass with Bible pages into the event page, which I shared to my girlfriend at the time, who told me that I was the worst human being on earth, that I was sharing pictures of shit-covered Bible pages in Alabama. I'm like, well, this is how we're going to get people to come to the show. This is fantastic. And he brings me, when I get there, the shit Bible. And I tear the first few blank pages out of it and hand it to Andy for rolling papers.
Oh man!
While you're doing this, the cops approach us on the street from a fucking gang fight. And they took one look at us and didn't know if we were a part of this shit. In the wrong place at the wrong fucking time.
Oh man!
To me first, I've got crippling social anxiety until I drink, and then I can deal with you. And like, I'm sober, but the problem is with me sober, when I see a cop, I remind myself how many scars I have growing up punk rock from cops. Not the person that you want to lead the conversation in most situations. This one I was good. I was like, hello, officer. Hi, my name is C Ratliff. We are touring road comedians here. We are just from show. I don't know why I picked this voice, but this is a voice I fucking honestly talk to him in.
It's like a quick, use your white person voice.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, "Why are you guys here?" And like, we're here to do a comedy show. I don't know why I said this, but I still get shit from Andrus when he remembers this, and Damien and all those guys. Is that I said we're here to spend our witticisms on people.
Witticisms.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Then they knew you were sober, because nobody that was drunk would say that. They must have known you were nervous when you said that.
I didn't realize I was holding a fucking pint of Jack in my hand that I had opened until I said
I like it, taking unconscious swigs from it while you're talking to him.
Damien just spin some magical bullshit and then was like, yeah, we're here to do a show. Officer, what's the problem? Because I didn't realize Degenerate Comedy, I found this out later, they come from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There's 15 of them that wear matching logos. There's so many gangs in Fort Lauderdale, that makes them legally a gang.
Oh, fuck.
So when they play, which over comedy makes that 3 gangs I accidentally joined in 10 years.
Jesus.
And, they're just talking it up, and then Andrus comes over, and he is so filled with cocaine. If you just smacked him in the back of the head, it looked like a broken snow globe came out of his nostrils. And gives this very eloquent speech about how, I help write for Portlandia. I work for AMC and everything, or IFC or whatever it was. And he's like, yeah. I mean, we're just here to do a show. What's happening? He's like, well, there's a gang fight happening down the road. And this was the cop's exact words. I have no homophobic sentiment in my body. He was like, so if you faggots decide that you want to walk about fucking 8 blocks to the right, you're going to get shot, because it doesn't look like any of you have anything going for your life. Their lives suck even worse. So you can stay here. We'll leave you alone. And as soon as they walk away, Andy goes, those Bible pages, they're still in your pocket? I go, yeah. And he's like, thank you. And we just roll a joint in the
Oh man, that's fucking great.
So he smoked shitty rolling papers that came from Bible paper. And
he smoked a joint out of pages from a stolen Gideon Bible from a recovered church put into a music venue that the guy who handed him said we had shit hands when he was tearing apart, so there was probably still some shit in the outside of the Bible. And then we smoked it.
I mean, that couldn't have smelled good, that smoke on top of the, it's like...
Oh, he collapsed on stage that night, too. Andrews collapsed on stage. Went off this speech about how I'm not in Portland. I can't get good weed. He was on the floor for 15 minutes before he actually started the set, and they just thought it was a part of the set.
It'd be a pretty good bit. Would just go out and fucking collapse in front of everybody.
That whole tour actually was a constant with Andy, because sometimes he would just be... I'm not shitting on Andy. I mean, he's one of my favorite human beings in the face of the earth. One of the smartest human beings I've ever met in my life. But, yeah, when he gets too fucked up, like, when we were in Pensacola, Florida, we were playing in a punk rock venue, and we had bands and rappers and all sorts of shit, and we were doing, it was like an all-day show. I did my set from the floor in the pit, and just trying to antagonize people, and just, it was fun. It was fun. Like, everybody was into it, like, I wasn't the opposition. Like, everybody was really into it. I told a bunch of really crass music-related jokes and just industry jokes and shit, and everybody was having fun with it. And then when Andy got on stage, the first thing he did was that C Ratliff fed me tacos when he made me wear a Thor helmet earlier and fell over.
Doing your set from the floor, I mean, didn't Mitch Hedberg kind of perfect that?
Well, no, he would like put his head down, sometimes turn away from the audience. He had crippling stage fright.
He was a crippling heroin addict, and if you listen to
Doug
Stanhope, he turned the gun on himself record. Track 2, he actually goes off on a very long thing for him. Mitch is one of his best friends, and talks about Mitch's heroin addiction and the fact that after Hedberg died, his parents did a golf tournament in his name. Like, that's like basically digging up his corpse and shitting on him, because like he hated sports, he loved drugs. Yeah, I mean that's accurate. Jeremy mentioned me meeting Artie Lang before, and like he was definitely the same boat, because I met Artie Lang when he was sober, and he did not like the fact I was drinking. And now it's even weirder to see how he turned out. The weirdest one for me is, if you're a fan of Jackass, I know the guy that got Bam Margera to fall off the wagon and turned him into the crippling piece of shit that he is now.
And then DiCamillo.
No. The guy that got Bam Margera to fall off the wagon was a guy, he goes by Vinny Beetle. He's from New England. And he booked Bam on a bunch of shows doing spoken word and comedy, and fed him drugs and bragged about it on Instagram and everywhere. And at the time, he was hitting me up and a bunch of other people saying, hey, donate for my comedy club. I'm going to start a comedy club. You just got to donate, and then you'll always be able to play time here. And he toured down through the South, where I'm at. And he outright made these openers admit they had to pay him to be on the road with them. He's a fucking con artist. He's writing a book about it right now, about, the dastardly tales of Vinny Beetle. I'm like, why the fuck? Like you're a fucking piece of shit. I can see Jeremy typing, looking for him right now.
Hey, yeah, it's apparently, it's a Facebook page. I don't see it as like a book yet.
No, he's teased it on his Instagram that he's going to write a book. Oh yeah, there it is. Dastardly Tales. Yeah, there it is.
This is the guy, huh? This is the guy who.
That's Vinny Beetle. That's the guy that got Bam Margera off the wagon.
got
I'm pretty sure that it's scroll up. Let me make sure this is the same book.
I mean, Philip Gedar. That must be his real name.
No, that's not it.
Oh, A Devious Journey Through the Alphabet. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that's not it. That's not it.
Okay.
He doesn't have a page set up for this shit yet. He's just teasing on his Instagram that he's writing it. It's not done. I don't think it's ever going to. But he's teased a fuckload of stuff about that. I'm going to show you all the other careers I've ruined. Like, why would you write a book on that? Like, that's awful.
Career killer. Look, there he is.
There he is, Scumbag Benny. That's him right there. And he's also the guy that got Artie Lang off the wagon. And then he's got a picture of Artie Lang with him. Scroll up right there.
Yeah.
That's a picture of him when he got Artie Lang off the wagon. He's also the same guy that fed Artie coke that ended Artie up in jail. No, okay, no, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. After he got out of rehab, the guy that got him back in jail was Scumbag Benny. Artie went in his own the first time. When he was booking the shows with him, Artie had that nose. And then when he had to go back to rehab, he was like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, there it is right there. Open for Artie Lang, and bam, there you go. There you go. It was like, is JC full of shit right now? And right there it is. There it is.
Wow. Yeah.
That's really fucked up.
Comedians, there's like this thing between comedians, or at least it seems to me, it's an understanding that, dude, anything you tell me or I see you do, I'm going to use as material for something. But with writers, between writers, it's all, how dare you invade my sanctity, my privacy. You're supposed to have decorum during an interview. I never understood that.
Okay, well, you're right and you're wrong. You're 50-50. You're 50-50. If it's a contemporary, then that's fucked up. If it's not a contemporary, like if it's some stupid open micer or somebody like Scumbag Benny, I love how I was telling this story and you're like, I can't find it. Is this real? And then you fucking, yeah. That's the way that this industry works. If you're a contemporary, I mean, no, you don't do that. You don't do that. But I mean, if it's some open micer and you're going to tear them apart, I mean, I know Mark Norman's done it to Knoxville, partially over me. And he's Amy Schumer's opener and the guy who actually writes her good jokes. He's done it to me, and I didn't care. I fucking told him I didn't care. I told him I thought it was fucking hilarious. I was like, yeah, you should do that. You should totally do that. I mean, if it's a contemporary, it's one thing.
Are we allowed to show pictures from your comedy days right now?
All right, sure, yeah.
Okay. I just wasn't sure, with all the shit, you got going on.
I'm not retired. I'm just taking an extended hiatus. Because the culture's changed so much. Oh, that picture. All right. That was 2011. I was headlining a riverboat in front of my parents. I was in a riverboat called the Star Knoxville. And the guy that I was opening for was Corey Ryan Forrester, who ended up being in the Well-Read comedy tour with Trey Crowder, the liberal redneck, and all that. I was opening for him that night. Yeah. And I told horrible jokes about how I lost my virginity and did drug jokes in front of my parents for the first time. And that's how they found out I had a drug addiction when I was young. And they gave me a standing ovation for making fun of it, knowing I was clean afterwards. I remember that show.
What is it with Joe Rogan and being able to cross-pollinate from MMA broadcasting or whatever to comedy and then back again and then to podcasting? How is he able to cross-pollinate and others are not?
I can answer that. I can definitely answer that. Okay, here's the thing with Rogan. A lot of people, even in my industry, which I still consider myself in the comedy industry, I was on my tax forms for 10 years. I have albums out, I've done that shit. I'm on a hiatus now, but Rogan, to comedians, being on Joe Rogan Experience in 2021 would be the equivalent. I got to plug in my laptop. Of being on the Tonight Show in 1975. It's because Rogan is the best interviewer out there. Period. And he interviews people on all sides. He treats everybody fairly. He has his own opinions, and he doesn't mind when he's wrong to correct himself. And he doesn't really apologize as much as he says, I was wrong, which I like that more than saying I'm sorry. I'd rather hear somebody say they were wrong, especially if you're in a position of speaking power to the level that Rogan has became. He's able to do it because everybody knows you get a fair shake with him. Like he can have a different opinion than you and respect you, and you can have a different opinion than him. He'll respect you. And if you don't like his opinion, he has one thing that's very pinnacle, that he doesn't give a fuck. Because, he goes to bed and he sees his kids and his wife in the house that he has in Austin since he moved. And, he doesn't give a shit. And I know JT Haberset, a friend of mine. If you don't know who JT Haberset is, definitely Google him and look up his comedy records and especially his book. I can't think of the name of it. I have it over here on my shelf and I can't find it.
Earn Poe currency with is that no? That's not it, is it?
No. Like Haberset, it's hard to spell. It's like
T Haberset.
JT Haber and then past it. I can't spell it. He's the penultimate fucking.
Got him. I got him. I found him. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, that's his podcast, The Road Podcast, and he has some comedy records out. And Misanthrope actually might be the only one he has out right now. I know that before the pandemic, he was going to do another one. I did his first comedy festival in Austin, the Altercation Punk Comedy Festival. I did it on the headliner night, but I wasn't a headliner. But I just knew everybody there. I did it with Mo Alexander, Christine Levine, Joe Stats, the comic that used to open for Bad Religion, and JT, and my buddy Carlos Valencia, who was Stanhope's opener. And if you're familiar with the Chicago area, Junior Stopka's tour partner. It was one of the most amazing nights of my life.
It says he opened for the Sword and the Dwarves. That's pretty as comedy support.
Yes.
For rock bands and punk bands.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, there are a few comedians that do that. I know Neil Hamburger has done that.
Not like JT does, man. I'm telling you, Misanthrope, his album, it's on Spotify. You can listen to it for free. And it's a hard recommend. He was a journalist running Altercation as a rag, and then it was record label for a little bit, I believe. I'm not sure about that. And then my buddy Dan Schleschel published Misanthrope on Standup Records, and it's a fantastic record. He's a very funny guy. Like, one of the real deals, that guy. I don't even remember how I got off onto this, but I mean, if you're just talking about genuine articles, man, like JT is up there. Like, he is, like, meeting him was a highlight of my career. Becoming friends with him was a highlight of my career. But guys like him are out there. Yeah.
How is it that these guys are managing to stay active, and you are down and out at this moment? I mean, is it real life?
It's just family circumstances, and to be honest with you, the career beat me down so much, and the climate shift where I was engaged and I was drinking too much, and I just didn't want to work, and I was bombing shows, and these guys were in not even so much like, well, JT's in a very happy life. I'm very envious of his life. He's an amazing human being. Very glad I'm friends with him. Oh yeah, it's the fact he wrote books. Yeah, find his books. You can find it on his website. Great books. They're all interviews with bands. They're in the store. Yeah, click store. He has any left. It looks like they're all sold out right now. But
So,
if they come back up, man, like yeah, they're pretty insane.
what about this Big Cartel? Would they be there? What is this? An Erykah Badu action figure?
Yeah, he makes action figures too.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're all one of one. So yeah, you can visit his store here and find the action figures that he makes too. Like this guy's just the genuine article, really.
Apparently, this is all he's got at the moment. But Big Cartel is seems to be where a lot of artists of all different kinds are flocking to right now. You know.
Yeah, if I had it all to do over again, I would have went there for sure because I got fucked over by Apple and by distributors, and Apple Music fucked me for $10,000. So
Was it a case of? And I understand if you can't comment, but what do you think it was a case of? I just want to get, I just want something. I just want, to have something, add something to my name, and that you were kind of putting it before the dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
no, I can tell you exactly what it was. My last album came out the month after Apple Music was released, and they were trying to get everybody to go to Apple Music instead of buying everything from iTunes. So we had a campaign. It was me and my photographer who did all the art for the album, which sucks because I lost so much money and never got to release physicals of it. And the art was really cool because it was. I found out about my daughter the year that I did that record, and I met a lot of comics and friends and artists when I was on the road that year. And I sent them a concept picture, which became eventually the actual picture of the record. And we had a concept when drawn. And they actually, one of the guys who made my favorite one is calling me right now, and I gotta mute that.
Yeah.
Scott Wilding, shout out. I still have that art in my house. The idea was to have me like this, right, with my mouth X shut, but with one hand holding a drink and the other hand doing the Catholic, the I can't think of the word. It's like
Revenant, penitent. I don't.
It's penance. It was penance. And it was the hand of penance and the hand of the holy water, but the holy water was filled with vodka, and all my fans knew that it would be filled with vodka. And instead of a tie, it was a microphone tied around my neck with a universal hexagram for Aleister Crowley behind it, because the title of the record was The Patron Saint of Dismay. And I thought, oh, this is going to be the fucking coolest art ever. And this girl that I was seeing took a series of Polaroid shots of me from having to come home from a day job and change clothes to go to the show, and then come back and take everything off. And we had this cool Polaroid collage that we were doing behind. We were doing not a jewel case, but the little sandwich cases. So underneath that was going to have that. The logo was just going to be the CD, and there was just going to be a very small thank you at the bottom, and the rest of it was just going to be this collage of shit. It was a really cool thing that we had put together. And when it came out, it was all through pre-orders through iTunes, and I had almost 1,000 pre-orders. It would have charted in the top 10 comedy albums on iTunes, and they switched it all to Apple Music the day that my link went up.
You got the worst luck in the world.
And I contacted them, and they go, well, you get exposure. It's like, exposure doesn't feed my daughter. And I called my distributor, and they were like, well, you didn't print physicals, so we can't get into legal. And that was one of their big reasons I decided to take a break. This is yeah, okay, well, I'm out. 10 grand in a weekend. I don't know how much this would be over time. So, yeah, I mean, the models change because people want to manipulate it. They don't want to pay a writer. They don't want to pay an artist. They don't want to pay a creative. They They're going to take what you did and make money off of it so they can sell it and let somebody exploit it and make a reboot or sell it to a fucking studio. And it sucks. Like, I've had 5 pitch shows with Amazon Prime too. And I've seen some of those things mutated on Amazon Prime. Like, I've watched it. I'm like, fuck. I mean, that's a part of my thing.
They took your idea and went with other, like, closely related concepts and different actors or something. Is that what you mean?
No, I've just seen, because they buy pitches. And then they'll take the pitches and they'll mix it with other stuff. And then when they get a pitch that fits it, that's their creative license noting. So, yeah. One show in particular. The other ones were stand-up shows that weren't my pitch. I was just a part of. And if you're talking about shows I've been invited to for Amazon, I mean, I can't count. But most of those were anthology stand-up shows. One of them is actually made it, and I still have an open door invite to be on that show, but I'm not saying its name until they fucking pay me and put me on it.
Well, if I can help in any way, man, you know, as far as like promotion or exposure, I hear you, but you know, I mean, you know, it's just one more avenue anyway, you know.
I'm taking a break and doing a comedy record and working on my podcast, Geeks Inherited the Earth. And when I get done moving, I'm actually working on some people for a movie pitch. And I'm going to do that because I know enough people to where I don't have to jump through the hoops that you have to do when you get started. You know, like I'm past that, which I think is the hardest part. So if you're a creative and you're a writer, I mean, if you're worrying, can you get past that hump? Yeah, you can. It's just, you're going to do a bunch of shit that you don't want to do to get there. That's just the God's honest truth. Like, I've had to play clean-cut comedy shows down in Gatlinburg. Chuckle fries are half off. Tip your waitress. We can't say any F words because we're worried God's watching. You know, like, it's
Pro Wrestling Spotlight?
Yeah, we just did that. I'm not on the wrestling shows. My old liar and a good friend of mine, he actually did the legal on my first record. When a good friend of mine, Christopher Seaton, is on that episode. We're about to, by the time this podcast is over, our full spoiler, the Suicide Squad episode is coming up.
See, I get shit for spoiling things, you know, on here, but I just don't have time to be spoiler free and coddle people who aren't curious enough to illegally download it or go out and see it or whatever. You know.
Well, I can say this: my band has no social media for a reason. We're not doing it until the album is done recording. And when it is, we're going to put it online with all the media. And just like my comedy records, I'm just going to tell everybody the same thing. Steal it. I don't care. Steal it. Take it. Pay for it if you want to. You know, if you appreciate what we're doing, pay for it. Sure. But with this show, after the legal bullshit we had to go through with our previous podcast network and everything, you know, sometimes the liberation to freely create is a very good thing. And with Geeks Inherited the Earth, I can definitely give any auteur to podcasts or social media creations. You can control your content. Just don't fucking sign contracts. And this goes to music. It's fucked up because I've lost money over my comedy stuff, my music stuff, everything by fucking signing contracts. Don't fucking sign a contract. Never fucking sign a contract unless you've had a lawyer look over it and know that it's rock solid and you control the creative content, the IP. The first person that ever got control of their masters, which would be the first time intellectual property was ever in a lawsuit, was Ray Charles. Ray Charles was the first musician to ever get control of his masters. And you know, you gotta be like that, you know. You gotta have some George on your mind, man, or you're gonna have your money taken. And that goes to all forms of literature and everything. Don't publish a goddamn thing unless you know you have full rights. If you don't have full rights, you don't have Final Cut. I mean, I'm broke now, but I made goddamn good money when I had control over my royalties and over my content. And that goes to YouTube, that goes to podcasts, that goes to everything. I mean, my old podcast, Bone Slayer, was around for 11 years. Please don't pull that up, it's embarrassing. But I mean, we had it for 11 fucking years, and we never monetized it because not monetizing it was how we broke even from the fucking vultures from the ad revenue. And I had to call lawyers all the fucking time because they were trying to take our fucking content away. So yeah, I mean, that would be my advice to you all is before you release something, if you think it's able to be monetized, don't sign a contract. Monetize it on your own. You know, YouTube is good with that. Spotify pays you a little bit, but I mean, it's whatever. The fucking models for payment have all changed. So yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you, man. And if you ever want to come back and give a hot take on something, I see you got a full review here of Loki, and I'm just wondering, do you feel that they did right by the Marvel lore? Marvel's better at world building and lore, it seems like.
Pull off this so I can see you here.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Marvel has always been better at world building and lore. We talked to Jim Starlin on here and asked if Jim Starlin, he wrote the Infinity Gauntlet, which is what the Infinity.
Yeah, I know who Jim Starlin is.
Yeah, he created Thanos, and we were both in awe that Thanos ever became a mainstream Hollywood phenomenon. I never thought that would happen, But do you think
with Loki? Okay, here's the thing with Loki. I'm assuming everybody here has seen Endgame to this point, and if you haven't, sorry, spoilers. When Loki, the Tesseract is kicked into Loki's feet, and he disappears. It was a great plot device, and then when they announced Disney Plus, we all kind of expected this Loki show. And what you don't know, what you're not consciously thinking about, really, is that we've seen Loki have a redemption arc. Okay, we've had Loki do a complete redemption arc where he's a completely different character, almost anti-hero-esque. But I mean, it is based off of failure, and there's been a phrase since Joss Whedon wrote it in the first Avengers, which came from Clark Gregg's mouth, with "you will lose, it's in your nature," which Thanos echoes when he kills him in Endgame. And that is definitely a theme in the Loki show. If you've not watched the Loki show, get up off your ass and do it right now. Because I don't think it's as meaningful right now, not having to wait a week in between episodes, because it cliffhangers so well on every episode. But you have to think in your brain when you're watching this. You really slap your head on this. This starts right after the Battle of New York. And the Marvel movies are now scoped back into real time. So it is that year, right? This is 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever. And he is sucked into the TVA, and Mobius, played by Owen Wilson. Fantastic character. They are hunting variants in the timelines. So they can keep a pure timeline. And everybody says after Endgame, where does Marvel go? Well, if you watch WandaVision, they extremely teased a multiverse, but it turned out to be Wanda's dimension. In Spider-Man 2, they teased a multiverse, which turned out to be Mysterio being alive. There's been seeds to go on and let casual fans be introduced into the multiverse from a narrative standpoint before they have to see it. Loki tears it wide the fuck open. And now we see what Phase 4 is. And now we see why Spider-Man Far From Home is not getting a trailer. By the way, the new Spider-Man movie is not getting a trailer.
It's not at all?
At all.
Can I say why? Because it's going to have the last 3 Spider-Men from impossible angles of like the Sony universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and whatever Tobey Maguire was, all in one big...
Wrong.
That's what I heard.
Wrong.
No,
that came from We Got This Covered, which is a clickbait website that my podcast consistently shoots down, and they have me and all of my podcast mates banned from all of their channels on because we go.
Man, you're really going to shoot this down, then? This is the only reason.
What now? Okay, your thinking's right. Your characters are wrong.
Oh.
Electro, Jamie Foxx is in it, and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock is in it. They are confirmed. They are completely confirmed. The multiverse is in it. Doctor Strange is in it. And this is going to be Spider-Man in the multiverse. My theory is that they're going to try to do a loose-winded Sinister Six. But, I mean, the toys have already leaked art. And it is definitely Cosmic Spider-Man because the webs that come out of it have the Doctor Strange circles around everything when it shoots. No, this is going to be a huge thing. This is going to be a very huge thing for sure.
So you're telling me there's not going to be three Spider-Men in this?
No, they've confirmed that. That's a MacGuffin. The question right now is Willem Dafoe going to return as the Goblin?
He is.
No, it's not confirmed.
Well,
he dances on it. Now, Alfred Molina has already talked about being on set, and so is Jamie Foxx, and Kevin Feige has admitted they're in the movie. They're the only.
Tobey Maguire has been photographed on set, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
And
Frank, Rhino villain happened in the
Amazing Spider-Man Part 2.
Which was the best Spider-Man, if you ask me. He made it the most fun. But
and Paul Giamatti played that character.
Yeah.
And Paul Giamatti has said that if he can come back and do that character at any time, that he will. And I would not be shocked if we see Paul Giamatti as Rhino in No Way Home. I would not be shocked at all.
But Tobey Maguire was, photographed on set. I'm just saying that's
all.
Well,
the question that is, though, is that did they take photos of him to throw everybody off?
That's some bullshit to fly somebody out there just to do that and fuck with people.
With a movie with no trailers that's going to introduce the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe now, because that's going to be what tears it open, because the next movie after that is Doctor Strange...
Multiverse of
Madness, which has Loki and Scarlet Witch, and you have to watch WandaVision and the Loki series to see how they play into that. And if you haven't watched all of Loki, I recommend it. It's some of the best 6 hours television I ever watched in my life.
I wasn't sure how Kang was going to work because...
Did you watch it? Did you?
Yes. Jonathan Majors charmed the
shit. So that wasn't Kang. That was He Who Remains. It's
okay. Well, they combine characters all the time?
No, He Who Remains is actually a character from the books.
I know.
And that is somebody that killed the other Kangs in one version of reality. Now the door is open and Kangs are out there. And Kang is the villain in Ant-Man 3, Quantumania. Yeah. And I firmly believe that Kang's going to be here until Fantastic Four. I think Fantastic Four is going to be, the final director of the TVA. Yeah.
But Jonathan Majors is playing Kang too, right?
Yeah, he is Kang. Yes.
So he's just that. See, they retroactively did that to where He Who Remains is just another version of Kang in the MCU.
Exactly.
So, technically he's still playing the same character, but just different variations.
Variations, exactly, yes.
But he charmed the shit out of that role, man. I wasn't sold on it at first, but after 5 minutes of him just playing games with the two Lokis, mind games, and just, throwing off all their attack, attempts,
That whole sequence felt more like a Quentin Tarantino movie to me.
Oh.
You know, like it was all dialogue driven. There's nothing exploding. There's no action, and you're riveted. You're at the end of your chair. You just want to know what's happening. It's one of the best things I've watched for television since Breaking Bad went off the air. It was like, this is just riveting, and I love the fact that he played it. I mean, for our full thoughts on it, please go to Geeks Inherited the Earth. We have a full breakdown of the entire series in there. But I love the fact that he played it as part Willy Wonka and part The Wizard of Oz. And, you know, he's completely unpredictable. He was this guy who didn't care. He was old past his years. His entire costume came from different eras. Every piece of clothing was different eras that Kang's existed in, mishmashed into one outfit. I thought that was fantastic. It set up Jonathan Majors for Ant-Man 3, but no, we're going to see Kang everywhere. You just got to get used to this. This is new Thanos. And this is how you do storytelling after something as epic as 20-plus movies as the Infinity War. And then you get this new narrative where everybody has theories now. Nobody knows what the fuck is happening. Marvel's acing it on the continual story. Meanwhile, James Gunn just blew the hell out of everybody with the Suicide Squad. If you haven't watched it, go watch it now. It's movie of the year. It's Oscar bait. It's ridiculously good.
I'm familiar with James Gunn more from his novel writing phase. Did he only write one book, The Toy Collector?
That got published that I know of, yes. I know he wrote some more. I don't know if they got published. Because that got him a job doing punch-up for Trauma Films, which is, you know, if your audience doesn't know what that is, Google. Have fun. That's going to be don't let your kids see what you Google.
Everybody knows.
And that got him Slither, which is the horror movie that he did with Henry Rollins. And then that got him Super. And Super.
Wait. Did you say He Never Dies?
Huh?
Did you say
Slither? You got him Slither.
Oh, Henry Rollins was in Slither. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought He Never Dies was pretty awesome. But
Who Never Dies is amazing. Actually, JT Habersit, who was mentioned earlier on the podcast, with Henry to the red carpet for that.
He actually got on the red carpet for that?
Well, I mean, it wasn't really a red carpet. It was the premiere. It wasn't a movie that had a red carpet. They just went to the premiere.
Apparently, they did a sequel called She Never Dies, and it was totally uninspiring, totally unconnected as far as I'm concerned. It just didn't strike a chord. It didn't strike that same chord, you know?
Well, yeah, for James Gunn, though, he went from that to Trauma movies to Super. So there's Super, Guardians of the Galaxy. I think there might be some other stuff in there that he did production work on. I know there is, and I'm missing. If you haven't watched the Suicide Squad, my sell for it is that he let all of the actors improv and never used a single thing they improv. Just so the movie could be the exact script and them having that much fun. And they used the new IMAX Red cameras so they could loop around the entire time. So it's a lot of like old boy hallway sequences type of stuff, like cinematography wise.
Wow.
But they do it in dialogue, which I've never fucking seen done.
Well, they do it in dialogue. What like they show everybody who's talking in like a.
I mean, it just.
Wow.
Dialogue.
Oh.
That's why, like, I know you said you were going to listen to our spoiler thing, but no, watch that whole movie first, because a lot of it is just, it's something that needs to be experienced. And, you know, if you're worried about COVID and everything, don't go to a theater. But if you're vaccinated and you're not worried about it, go to a theater, because this is an IMAX experience. It was filmed on all IMAX cameras. I felt cheated watching it at home through HBO Max, but unlike what they did to Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson, they're all getting paid well. And Peacemaker, John fucking Cena, never thought I would ever in my life champion John Cena.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, he clearly dies or lives. I can't say. I don't know. You have to watch it. It's up to your own decision what happens to him.
I
But,
thought Shark was the one that stole the show.
there's already an 8-episode miniseries written and directed by James Gunn with John Cena as Peacemaker. Already filmed, coming out in HBO Max at first quarter of 2022. I don't even care if they do a. I hope they don't do a sequel to this movie. I just want Peacemaker fucking on HBO Max forever. Like, just make that a seasonal show for like 8 years. I'm gonna be so happy. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. Been JC Ratliff. This has been fun. Find me on Spotify. Please don't YouTube me because a bunch of fucking people put up horrible things. I'm still trying to legally get taken down. What happens when I get drunk on stage, and they're not always good. Spotify, JC Ratliff, Hopes of Virus, Painter Sin or Dismay. Geeks Inherited the Earth. Please look for the one with the Comics Code logo because we're still in a legal battle for these assholes to get that other one down. It says Outlander Media. Don't click that. Go to our panel and click those. That's the good one. Like, yep.
I got
Jeremy, great to talk to you again.
Yeah. What's up?
Let me get out of here.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for dropping by, man. You giving us two like amazing epic hours where it's like I've never heard such crazy stories of just, oh yeah, I happened to meet this guy, and this guy, and they tried to murder each other, and I sold the one guy coke. I've never heard that. I mean, wow.
I've been around.
Thanks a lot, man. Come back anytime, please.
Yeah, man, hit me up. If I'm not at band practice, I'll be here.
Right on.
All right, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you for letting me on the show, and good night.
All right, thanks a lot for coming.
Yeah, tough act to follow for both of us.
Right.